This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, the very best podcast for regular comic book fans. I am your host, Mike Rapin, and joining me this week, two strange nerds who keep pestering me about variant covers. This week, I'm joined from the Next Issue podcast, the one and only Danny.
Listen, it's only 7 different variant covers. We have the room in the storage box, all right?
Okay.
Only
You know,
7.
I'm sorry. Well, I'm also this week joined by Nick White.
Yeah. Some of us have the room.
Yeah, some of us. Well, thank you both for joining me this week. Thank you both for joining me here live on Twitch. We're so excited. If you're here watching us live on Twitch, hello, I'm waving at you. You can see my face. You can see the outlines. You can see the shininess of the new tattoo that I have on my arm. So if you didn't watch this on Twitch, boy, oh boy, you missed out. But before we get into today, and talk about comic books, we do that legally mandated thing we have to do. I got to shout out everybody so far who has supported the Kickstarter. We are, as of recording, let me do a quick refresh. 94% funded, 63 backers. We have 23 days to go. I can't believe that in a week's time, we're almost funded. It's incredible. I'm so thankful. I'm so just unbelievably excited to get this thing going. If only because I've got a special announcement. About the zine, which is very exciting. And if you watched Danny's Next Issue podcast yesterday on Saturday when we did a live discussion about Akira, you heard this already. But part of this zine, we are at 20 artists for 28 pages, 24 individual pieces of art. That's changing. We now can confirm that Jesse Lonergan will be joining us on the podcast, join us in the zine, I should say, to do a page instead of Totally Not a Cult and art anthology zine curated by IRCB. I'm so excited that Jesse's going to be putting a page in this book. He picked one of the funniest titles. I can't wait to see him draw. So if you want to know more about that, you have to check out the Kickstarter. All that information's over there. But we're very, very excited to have Jesse as part of this, along with the 20 other artists that we have in this thing. If you haven't seen the list, it's incredible. So go to ircb.fyi/zine to back Totally Not a Cult. I'm super excited. See, Danny's in this book. I mean, come on. If you love Danny, you gotta check this thing out. But anyways, very excited for that. And one other thing I want to announce, I also want to shout out a Kickstarter that is running right now that is very, very cool. It's called Zona del Mal, a folk horror anthology. This is made by a bunch of different creators from across the world, and they really wanted me to just say hello and shout out. It looks like a very cool project. I'm excited to back it. Some of the previews that we get for that book is very scary. So if you like horror anthologies, you should go check this out. There's going to be a link to that in the show notes. But we're done. We're done talking about promos, done talking about plugs. It's time to talk about comic books. So I have 2 legally mandated questions that I need to ask both of you, and that is, how have you been? How have comic books been? Let's start with you, Danny.
Mike, I know you said we were done plugging stuff, but this anthology is a banger. Like, so I will plug it one more time. Go to Kickstarter. And can you imagine us crossing the line live on Twitch?
Wow, we're live on Twitch. Listen, I would be very, very excited if we did that today.
But I've been doing well. It's been quite a weekend. So as most of you know, especially if you're in the Discord, I play a game called Star Wars Unlimited. It's a trading card game, and this is pre-release weekend. But there are some changes to the rules that you can actually buy some product now on pre-release weekend. This game is not fully out till next weekend. Now, you both play Magic, and I think you guys probably know what a collector's box is, the collector pack.
A collector booster? Yeah.
So your boy, they just introduced something similar. It's called the Carbonite Edition booster. And your boy,
I'm glad Star Wars players now also have the opportunity to take cash wads of money and throw them into an incinerator. But yes,
now your boy picked up a box and he pulled this really cool showcase Darth Vader, which is pretty much like, if I sell this, which I don't think I will, like, this would pay for the box itself. So, your boy's doing all right. But yeah, we had a really good time at pre-release. Also had a really good time talking to Mike yesterday on my show about Akira. You can go check that out as well. What a banger of a movie.
Dude, it's a really fun discussion too. I had a great time.
Yeah, we may be planning some stuff for the future. If Marvel and DC can have a crossover this summer, who's to say? So stay tuned for that. But yeah, really
I'm
fun.
very excited, man.
Today's been hectic because of the time change. I don't know what time it is. My body's telling me like it's not that late, but you have to go do a podcast. So so here I am struggling, but comics have been fantastic and plentiful. But today I wanted to lean into like this whole Marvel thing, this Marvel journey that I'm going on. I'm about to embark. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Because the X-Men line, I think, right after the end of the Krakoan Age, has been different. I'll say, probably not up everyone's alley, and even myself, like I'm not reading all the books like I was. I think
Same.
the Krakoan Age, and this may be rose-colored glasses, but like I think I was picking up and reading every series, and I was like overall pretty much on board. I think
I was invested, man.
the only kind of whiff was that first series, Fallen Angels, because I think they were just testing stuff out. But that was just
Sure,
me,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
But for this week, I saw Creator. This was a book that I had already read the first issue. Is for Sentinels. I read issues 1 through 5 from Marvel Comics. This is written by Alex Pagnadel, which is a fantastic writer. I think we've read a lot of stuff by him in the past and talked about his stuff. He tends to lean into like this kind of like psychological thriller, maybe a little bit of a body horror type of thing. And he's working with Justin Mason on art on this series. It is a 5-part series, part of the new From the Ashes. So this all takes place after Krakoa. And in this story, we follow a team of Sentinels equipped with nanotech. So these are regular people, regular soldiers, enhanced with nanotech, with Sentinel tech, who are tasked with capturing or eliminating dangerous mutants in this new world. These operatives are former human soldiers who have been injured in past conflicts with superhumans and have been rebuilt, which that's a whole big mystery of it, using cutting edge Sentinel technology. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so unlike traditional Sentinels, these are like humans that have enhancements in them. And I just thought that was a very fun concept because the thing that Sentinels lack is the morality and the struggle of being a human, right? Otherwise, the X-Men can just trick them into flying off into the sun, because that's a throwback to the first story in the X-Men ever. If you're up on your comics. So yeah, these stories just position these Sentinels as both hunters but also victims, exploring a lot of their struggle to maintain their humanity. Because one of the side effects of these enhancements is that you eventually glitch, and the nanotechnology takes over, and that's when the team has to get rid of you. So I was like, all right, I read the first issue. I was like, this is good. It's only 5 issues. Let's wait till it's all done, and it's all done now. So,
Sure.
It is a little bit all over the place, I feel. The core story is entertaining, but I don't know what the exact pitch was for this. So I don't know, like, did they plan to do more? I also feel like they were trying to seed stuff for some stuff in the future that has nothing to do with this story. More stuff about Xavier and how he's trapped in jail. And we'll talk about that later on in the show. And then the art itself, although I like Justin Mason, I think it's a bit divisive because he has a very like a kinetic style, but it's very rough around the edges. Which I think it works thematically within the book because you have like these people struggling to maintain their humanity, but some people may not. I was looking online at other reviews and people were like, this doesn't look good. And I was like, that's kind of the point. These are people that are going through a lot of really bad stuff, right? So, I chose to take it as this is their interpretation of that and not just like, oh, this is a bad illustration. I think it's a really bold swing into this story. I do feel they needed maybe 1 or 2 more issues to flesh out some of the little side stories. One of the Sentinels has a kid and he's trying to get him out of trouble. And then the first issue is so cool, and this is a slight spoiler because you're introduced to an initial roster, but by the end of the issue, the team has to get rid of one of those guys because he's glitched and now the machines are taking over. So then you really bring in the correct person that was going to be in the story all along into the roster. So I thought it was a good time. overall, especially if you enjoy like X-Men shenanigans, like which for the most part I do. Um,
Sure.
and I've been reading some other books that are not superhero related, so I kind of wanted to dip my toes back into like just let's go deep into the Marvel lore. So I don't know that
Yeah.
this is for everyone, but if you enjoy Alex Pagnadell storytelling, I think you'll probably like this. And if you want to explore like the man versus machine, and then also there's some really deep cuts for X-Men fans. Of you
Mm-hmm.
have Trask Bolivar's kid. He's kind of in charge of the program, and he's the mutant that can see into the future. So he's dealing with his own stuff, and then all the mystery of this new prison that has Xavier trapped, and how they want to take over. So I think this probably
Mm-hmm.
will appeal to like 3 people maybe that listen to the show. But man, we are gonna have a good time with it.
Well, it's interesting. I feel like every time a Sentinel type book comes out from Marvel, it's weird. They've done a couple of these over the years, right? Like they did back in the House of M days. They did like the Sentinel Star 1 or whatever. And I think they've done a couple of little mini series like this in the past. They're always interesting, but I'm kind of just like, why? Like I understand like wanting to tell the quote unquote like bad guy story or the villain story or whatever, but it just feels weird. I don't know. I can't seem to wrap my head around what the X office is doing right now. So I always find it just hard to find any of these books interesting. So I'm glad to hear that like in reading this, you found something fun to read, like slightly fun to read, even if it doesn't appeal to everybody, because I have been just completely disassociated from all of the X books since the end of Krakoa. Like my heart still hurts. It's still broken like however many months later. So
It's weird. Like
yeah.
it's like, am I not over this breakup? What's going on? Like you just dumped me,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
I still think about you every once in a while, even though I'm seeing other people. Like what's going
Yeah.
on? So
I mean, like there's a whole episode of discussion in here. I think it ultimately felt super sudden. I think for a lot of readers, myself included. Like I was up to date, I was really excited, and then it just felt like, oh, this is ending. Sorry, we're done. There was no gradual taper, which I think, is it better to go out with a bang or is it better to go out, and fizzle? I don't know, but whole other discussion. But
the funniest part was that they pushed us over 2 different cliffs. First, Jonathan Hickman left, even though they had promised like he's gonna take care of us for a while, and then they ended the Krakoan age. And I was like, how dare you do it again? And how dare myself? Like it's my fault because I still believe in you. So there you go. Comics hurt, but they're so good.
I know they'll break your heart, man. That's what some old guy said. So Nick, what is on the top of what have you been reading? I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. What have you been up to? How have you been? What have you been reading? All that stuff.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on the show. I think conspiratorial tinfoil hat minds might wonder what's going on, or if you're going to find me on the side of a milk carton any day soon. But no, I think for some of the people who listen or participate in the Discord, I ended up getting what I thought was a cough and was off on the show for 1 week. And then by the end of the next week, when I was ready to be on the show again, and then it turned into this kind of breakneck pace of, Mike being like, all right, everybody ready for MagicCon? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be ready for MagicCon. And literally down to the wire where my recovery was a little slow and ended up at the doctor, like literally the day before going for MagicCon, and she's like, we need to do x-rays before we need to do some chest x-rays again before you leave. So it was a breakneck pace, but ended up going and got to see Mike and Zander in person, and played a team trios event with them where they were, I was told multiple times, we can't wait to see if you'll behave in person when we play cards with you.
Well, Nick, no. Tell people why we would say that, because quite honestly, the way that you've talked about playing Magic Arena makes you seem like the biggest troll on the internet. So, I was really wondering how that was going to translate to real life.
Someone does something. Yeah. Sometimes someone does something really cheap, and I'm having a bad day. And obviously the match like times out after a certain period. So I'll just like walk away from the match and just go to the bathroom and unload the dishwasher and just let the match hang for a while.
Evil.
Yeah. So, not always. If somebody good games me and it's like not the end of the match, like don't good game me. Like it's not over.
This is appealing to about as many listeners as Danny's discussion of Sentinels. So it's fine.
That's fine. I did manage to get some reading done. I read Dust to Dust 1 through 3. This is out of 8. It's written by J.G. Jones of many book fame, and also famously drew the This Is My Face When I'm Fucking You in the Ass last page of Wanted by J.G. Jones and Mark Miller. So for those who forgot about that, it's a thing. But
I wish I hadn't been reminded. How about
that? Look,
I've never heard of it.
The dude, it became a movie. Obviously, it worked out well for both of them, and I'm just clearly JG has done other stuff that I appreciate a lot more. But it does come to mind every once in a while.
I have a lot of questions, but we'll save it for the post show.
Yeah.
So this is written by J.G. Jones and Phil Bram. J.G. Jones also obviously did the art. Letters by Jackie Marzin. Right out of the gate, this book does kind of ask an interesting question, which is, at 8 issues, is this now a maxi series? Whatever it is, this takes place in Cimarron County, Oklahoma, 1935. It's a couple years into the Great Depression. And just a few pages in, it really just sort of sets the tone of the book. When you've got this billboard right outside the town, and it says, "Welcome to New Hope. Jobless men, keep going. We can't take care of our own." So, I mean, guys, it's Oklahoma. You got the Dust Bowl. You got the dust clouds. It's the Depression. It just really made me sad, and it made me think of, like I said a week or two ago, when Zander and I were driving into Chicago, and you hit that stretch in Indiana where all of the billboards alternate between gentlemen's clubs and billboards warning you that you're going to hell. It's just back and forth and back and forth, but you just feel sad. And like, that's what it made me think of. So there's my brain association game. My therapist will be hearing about that. So the book initially focuses on this family, the Olsen family. This is not part of the Mary Kay Ashley multiverse. That's other works. And they're in the midst of packing up their belongings. They're heading out west to California, as was such the case for many others. They attempted to do farming, but they really couldn't get a reliable water source, so they're headed out. The sheriff, Sheriff Meadows, shows up. He's picking up the Olsen's keys to their drill site, and he notices that the family's dog is gnawing on some bone he found over next to the well. It looks like a jawbone. Dum, dum, dum. There's a lot of the usual trappings here for a Western noir. You've got the mayor that wants to keep things hush-hush. I guess that would also make it Jaws adjacent. In this futile effort to keep even more people from leaving the town, you've got this plucky young photojournalist from Chicago named Sarah. She works for the WPA. You've got this sheriff whose hip flask sees more action than his badge. And amidst all of this, someone is using these dust storms as a shroud to sort of cover up their heinous acts, which seem interestingly targeting those set on leaving the city. I really enjoyed this. Fans of That Texas Blood, Rory McConville and Joe Palmer's Write It in Blood, and also There Will Be Blood. You would do well to drink this milkshake up, I guess. Jones's artwork is just as good as ever, and it reminds me a lot. I know artists love being compared to other artists. They love it. But it reminds me a lot of Nicholas Scott's work on Black Magic, which was done with Greg Rucka. Both titles sort of really embrace this duotone, and J.G. Jones's work on Dust to Dust is more of a duotone with a sepia tone to it, which fits in terms of dealing with all of these clouds and grit and dirt and dust and just the worn out feeling of this place. And this work also uses pop subcolor to sort of draw attention to things. I will say this, it's definitely a slow burn. people who are interested in sort of murder mysteries or conspiracies that really just cut to the heart of things, this is not that. Like I said, I'm nearly halfway through, and I just found out about the murder. So things are moving at a slow pace, but it's really good. It's really solid. And J.G. Jones, for me, is in the same category as Mike Mignola, where you have this artist actually consistently, frequently drawing interior pages on a book. You take it and you run with it, and you embrace it. So, check this out. If you're into noir, if you're into mysteries, if you're into period pieces, I think it's great. I'm really having a good time with this.
Did you Google all those comics with the title and all those things with blood in the title?
Oh no. I knew all of those.
It's just that's just in the middle of Nick's
This
head
is just
all the
word
time.
association. Yeah, this is just word association. Yeah. Danny, are you going to come to my improv show next week, Danny? Danny, I got tickets. I got tickets.
The people may not want me to because they think there's a conspiracy in the Discord that I poisoned you earlier. So
oh right, people do think that Danny is the reason why you weren't on the show.
Yeah.
Thanks for covering that up, Nick, with the whole fake disease. I appreciate that.
I do want to say I did read the first issue of this, but I'm doing this thing this year that I'm going to read the first issue of miniseries and then just wait, because I will lose track of the month to month. So yeah, but I'm very interested to hear like that this is a slow burn and I made the right decision. Also, as a way to plug the Patreon, if you're not a Patreon, you really should, only so you can see the notes, because Nick does more of a full script, where I do my notes as more of the Marvel method, where it's like, here's a basic outline and then I'll just try to fill in the blank, like, so it's really funny. It's really funny to see though, because I'm just looking at them side by side as we do the show. But yeah, I'm JG Jones it's pretty incredible. So like, it was definitely something that I put on my, I'm going to be checking you out later, probably till the end, at the end of the year when I'm trying to catch up on all the 2025 goodies.
It's interesting. I feel like I've heard the name J.G. Jones so many times, and yet I can only name 2 comics that have his name on them off the top of my head. But this, you've sold me on this. I didn't even know this book was coming out, which is just a weird thing around like marketing Image books, where I'm like, there's some really good stuff coming out from Image, and half the time I miss them, which is very frustrating because I should not have missed this book, right? It's a beautiful looking book just from the cover. So I don't know what didn't draw me in immediately, but
yeah, it's kind of weird because like it's part of, don't quote me on this, I think the imprint is called Giant Generator, and it's everybody's ever, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, you get an imprint, you get an imprint, you get an imprint. Rick Remender has an imprint now I say now, I think it's been around for a while, but now it's at Image. And, kind of weird, Rick, it feels like you have no problem plugging your own books pretty well, but like, I didn't hear much about this one.
Is there an ad for this in the back of Sacrificers? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, you see the first cover and it's like, oh, this looks cool. Like, you're like, oh, this is interesting.
One last question on this book. Would you like to see James McAvoy and the adaptation of this book into film as well?
Why McAvoy?
Oh, because he was in Wanted.
Because he was in Wanted, Nick. Come on, don't.
Oh, Jesus, right.
Don't do this to me, Jesus.
No, that's right. I forgot. Like, I was in McAvoy and I was thinking, like, Pride and Prejudice? What the fuck? Why are we X-Men? What? No, you're right. Yeah. Wasn't Chris Pratt the roommate?
Listen, we're gonna move on.
Let's make this a Wanted rewatch podcast, folks.
No. Hey, listen, if folks want us to watch Wanted
with your brain, curve the
what a pivot after 10 years to switch into a Wanted rewatch podcast.
No. If people want us to watch Wanted, you can bring it up on the movie club, Paul, and put me and Brian and Paul through it.
This is a stretch goal for the Kickstarter.
Yeah, for the Kickstarter. If we reach $10,000,
at $10,000, we become a Wanted rewatch podcast.
Wanted, where every week we rewatch Wanted and we talk about it.
Wanted minute.
All right. Anyways, so we're gonna move on. I'm gonna talk about what's been up with me and what I've been reading, because God, I have to get past this Wanted bullshit. So It's been a busy week or two. I've recorded a bunch of podcasts this weekend. I recorded an episode on Friday. It was on Danny's show yesterday. I'm recording tonight. Yesterday I kind of like / impromptu went and got this tattoo. This tattoo was done by Claire Connolly, who has a page in the IRCB zine, which I think is very, very cool. She's also done like another tattoo that I have that, if you're curious, I posted a little tattoo tour on the IRCB Discord. But I'm happy to talk about them. I find my own tattoos to be very cool. That's why I have them. But nonetheless, really cool. Took like 2.5 hours, and my arm hurts so bad, or at least it did. It doesn't hurt too bad today, but it was pretty rough last night. But I did manage to find some time to sit down and read comics. I got a little caught up on One Piece, which is very exciting, and I did finally read, after some light bullying on the IRCB Discord, I decided to read Something is Killing the Children, volumes 1 through 3. This is by James Tynion IV, Werther de Ledra on art, and Mikel Muerto on colors, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe letters, one or the other. But yeah, like I said, I finally got around to this. This book's been out for a while. If you haven't heard of it, the long and short of it is, a little town in Wisconsin. Children start to go missing. A young woman named Erica shows up with large green eyes, and she's here to investigate this and help this town before things get worse. Spoilers, things get worse, and holy smokes, I knew that this book was going to be dark just from the title, but I did not think it was going to be as dark as it is. I cannot believe this is like such a massive seller for Boom Studios, because holy smokes, it's dark, but it's pretty good. I read 3 volumes of it, right? You don't read 3 volumes into a series if you don't like it, unless you're some of the people on our Discord. Shout out for it. I don't know what drives you, but it's always impressive that you read through a series that you ultimately hate. But I read this, and I thought it was kind of fun. It feels very of its time. It feels very like of its. There's a bunch of other books that I think when this started to come out, or had come out shortly before it, where you get this little peek into a world, and then by the end of a portion of the story arc, you realize, oh, there's a much larger story at hand here. Some call that good storytelling. Some in my case, call it weirdly predictable. But I don't think that's a bad thing. This book is very fun and super easy to read. And fun is a weird word. It's very entertaining and easy to read. And I say that if only because there is an even pacing to this story that never slows down or gets faster. Nothing feels like it's moving too quick or too slow. From panel 1, you are at a specific pace in the story, and I appreciate that you can power through 3 volumes and not feel like you read too much or too little, or that you took into like too much story or not enough. Enough questions get answered, enough reveals happen that keep you interested. Like, I'm going to keep reading after this because, 1, I have a global comic subscription now thanks to the light bullying on the Discord. But 2, like, there's enough here that I'm interested, right? I've got enough in like enough things made me raise my eyebrows to go, okay, let's see where this book is going. Like, and I know that there is a slightly rabid fan base behind this book. Like, it was so funny when I was at C2E2 with Paul last year. Paul and I are in line to get like Department of Truth issues signed and like other stuff by Tynion. Everybody else in line with us had Something is Killing the Children or House of Slaughter stuff to get signed, which I think is crazy. Like, I have never really read this book until recently, and it's wildly successful, at least like in comics terms. So I appreciate the fact that it has enough questions that hook you in. I like it. It's not bad. It's not mind-blowing, but it's like fun and easy comics to read. Like, you can sit down and read a volume of this, and it's just like drinking a glass of water. Like, there's nothing crazy about it that will like make you sit and stop and feel like it's clunky. It is maybe, like, I cannot express this enough, maybe the best paced comic I've read in a while. It reminds me of like when I was binging through Invincible, where like those volumes just like hit really easy. There's enough hook at the end of each volume that you're interested, but you never feel super overwhelmed by the story that you read. Again, you have to have a strong stomach to get through this book. It's about children dying. Other than that, it's a pretty good book. Had a fun time. So if you're interested and you haven't had sat down and read this, Something is Killing the Children, apparently pretty good book. So Danny, you look like you're surprised by what I'm saying here.
It's like very scary water though that you're drinking.
Yeah.
I read the first volume of this, and I can't believe you're burying the lead, Mike. The name of the main character is Erica Slaughter, and I'm like, that's the coolest name a character could have.
It is very cool. Yes.
But yeah, I read the first volume. I was like, there's a lot happening here, and then they announced, like, I think 3 or 4 volumes in, a spin-off, House of Slaughter, and there's like a whole universe, like Mike was saying. So I was like, this is more than I want to handle right now. And James Tynion's also writing so many books that I'm already reading. Like,
Yeah.
I can only go to the dark side for so long. I need some levity in my books.
Between this book, Department of Truth, Deviant, I mean, like, there's some dark stuff out. He's got his New Jersey Devil book out there that's
Weird
coming
Tales,
out. So, like,
those true Weird Tales, or Blue Book. Yeah. What are you reading to even you out, Mike? Like,
I mean, One Piece is pretty even. I did read, like, I think I talked about it last week, like the Bring Me the Head of Susan Lamond was really fun. Like all this Silver Sprocket stuff.
All your Kickstarter books, even
Kickstarter books. I mean, I read this book called Solace County, which is pretty recently. Hold on.
I like to picture Mike reading. He just finishes a volume of Something's Killing the Children, and then he goes and picks up his little frogs book. Like, bring some light back into his life.
Mean, Tales of the Frog Knight's really good. It's a really good Kickstarter that I read. It's just about like a Frog Knight, little 8-page stories about this guy just trying to do the right thing. Solace County, I mean, this isn't really happy-go-lucky, but it's really good. Like, it's just like little mini comics done by this guy, J. Marshall Smith. I backed this on Kickstarter because I really like just the vibe that his comics gave. Like, look at this sticker and tell me that's not fucking cool. Like, I don't know. Like, there's just something nice about the way that this guy draws. And it turns out there's a little bit more to this than I originally thought. And I think J. Marshall Smith's art has changed significantly over the years. But Solace County is just like a collection of all of his various doodles and mini comics. And it's pretty good. I mean, like, this is a chunky little thing. I really enjoyed just like the slice of lifeiness of this, I guess, after in between volumes of Something is Killing the Children. So, but it's like, are you going to sit down and binge something like Severance or binge something like, American Horror Story? Like, I wouldn't recommend it. So you definitely got to fit things between volumes of Something is Killing the Children.
I did binge The Leftovers, and I don't recommend that to anyone.
I wouldn't recommend that. No. But that's what I've been reading. That's what I've been up to. I'm getting freaking Aquaphor all over my desk right now as I'm trying to adjust my arm and not sit. But let's move on and talk about comics that are new to us, or something we're just trying to get off the shelf, or just an old book, anything, honestly. Let's talk about books down on the top of our pile. I guess before we get into ours, I want to shout out some of the folks hanging out with us live on Twitch and on our Discord. CK is going to be reading Department of Truth Volume 5 next. Thank you. It's the best comic on the shelves as far as I'm concerned. Furt's going to be reading Pinball by John Cha. Hugh is going to be reading Snot Girl number 19. And Avocado Kenobi is going to be reading Ultimates number 10. I mean, these are all incredible sounding books. But yeah, Nick, let me kick things over to you. What is on the top of your pile this week?
Yeah, so for me, my top of my pile book is definitely going to be Star Trek Lower Decks number 5. This is written by Ryan North. Art by Derek Charm, letters by Clayton Coles, design and production by Johanna Natalie. This is not to be confused, because I know, Mike, you're gonna not be able to make this distinction. Not a Star Trek superfan. It's fine. This is not the Lower Decks ongoing series that began in 2022. This is the new one from 2024. Both were written by Ryan North. But the 2022 was done by Chris Finoglio on art. For those who can't get enough of Lower Decks, I think this is a great option, especially considering I think the show ended, final season 5 was summer 2024. So there is a mini series from IDW from a couple years ago. There's also an OGN that they did with the same team that did this book, North, Charm, and Coles. Called Star Trek Lower Decks Warp Your Own Way, and it's a choose your own adventure original graphic novel. I haven't read it yet. I'm very excited. I did pick it up. What an interesting idea.
Classic.
It's weird that, like, I've never seen anyone else do that. So yeah, what an interesting idea. Also did a one-shot called Star Trek Day of Blood, Shax's Best Day. Shax is a character. You know this, Mike. And that actually was nominated for 2024 Eisner for Best Single Issue or One Shot, which is a big deal. Star Trek came away in 2024. Star Trek Comics came away with 2 Eisner noms, which I think was like probably the first time ever. So pretty big deal, guys.
I mean, good comics are good comics, whether they're licensed IPs or not. Yeah, I you know, Mike from 5 years ago would be kicking Mike currently in the head, but like, you know, sometimes licensed comics can be good. My mind has been changed on this.
Yeah,
but sometimes is the key word.
But yeah, if you're into Lower Decks, there are plenty of opportunities to get in there and read more. And I think what's nice about Lower Decks is that the art style of the show, I didn't really love it at first. I blame whatever Rick and Morty ushered in, where that sort of became this like blueprint. You know what I mean? And
sure,
it certainly people have like riffed on it and have done variations on a theme, but it feels like it's hard to look at certain shows and be like, I feel a little of the Rick and Mortyification of the aesthetics. So it's an uncomplicated look, and I think the benefit of that is that it translates to comic books perfectly. Like there is a perfect 1-to-1. You don't have the issues that you have with a live action adaptation, such as some of the Strange New Worlds comics that we got over the last couple of years. Or I'm totally okay with artists just like riffing. Everything doesn't need to look like Alex Ross. But obviously for some people that's an issue. And I guess what I'm saying is with Lower Decks, it's a non-issue. It looks exactly like the cartoon. It's really well done. The humor is great. There's a lot of editorial notes. They're actually all mostly pretty good and funny. So it's
that's Ryan North to a T though, right?
Okay. I know. Gasp. I haven't, read his Squirrel Girl stuff because I think this is pretty common fare for that. But
yeah. And Jughead too. Was it Jughead or was it Archie that he did? I can't remember.
I think it was Jughead.
I think it was Jughead. Yeah. Either way.
Yeah. It's great. Like it's funny. That's like honestly the main goal. Like, is it actually humorous? It is. It does riff on some really funny Trek things that I haven't even seen other people do. Like at one point they're talking about this ship that was long lost and no one's heard of it for a while. And someone says, oh yeah, it got lost in like, the Bermuda Triangle. And someone else goes, oh yeah, it's like a Mary Celeste situation. And all of the aliens or whatever that aren't from Earth are like, we don't fucking understand any of these analogies you keep making because you keep referencing all these things from Earth. And like you stop, and if you watch enough Star Trek, you're like, fuck, this happens all the time. Like, fuck your Earth-centric biases. Come on. So I don't know. Wow, I thought that was really funny.
I didn't know you were so anti-Earth woke. So Earth, wow, yeah. That's crazy.
Earth, it's not just about us.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, I'm glad to see that Ryan North continues to do like his sense of humor works for multiple types of stories, right? Like I think he is a fantastically hilarious like author, or like in general, right? Like one of my favorite books that I read recently in the last couple of years was Danger and Other Unknown Risks. Funny book from start to finish. His Squirrel Girl is very funny. His Jughead, hilarious. I mean, like, and I know he is capable of writing like serious books. I think his Fantastic Four, I think it has a more of a serious bent, but it's good to see that when he jumps back onto a book that for a series that is supposed to be funny, which I imagine Lower Decks is a bit more tongue-in-cheek than your traditional like Star Trek series, that he works, and he works really, really well, and he's getting the jokes. And for people who are Star Trek nerds like me and you, Nick, huge Star Trek nerds, right?
I'm not on your level, but I appreciate your generosity and willingness to sort of allow for that artificial parody between you and I.
Folks, for the record, I am not a Star Trek
Mike,
fan, but
Mike was before we got on the show, I was like, look, I'm going to read this book. And Mike was like, please, like, you need to talk about Lower Decks. Like, I can't be seen talking about Lower Decks, but you can do it, you fucking loser.
Listen,
I will say
the
this,
Star Trek nerd here. I'm going to keep pointing fingers, but I'm glad that it is working. That's what I'm trying to say here.
And I will say this before I forget. For anyone who is concerned or worried about spoilers, because obviously I think for a lot of Star Trek fans, canon and timelines are important. It feels like the book lines up with like the beginning of season 4 of the show. So if you're not that far on the show, how do we put this lightly? There's a couple of personnel changes that are different. So if you're at all worried, get 4 seasons into the show first. So yeah, just a little handy bit of advice.
The thing I appreciate the most about Ryan North, because I also have been reading, and of course, look, I'm not gonna tell you to go read his new big crossover, One World Under Doom, because that's not for everyone. But Mike mentioned Fantastic Four earlier, and that series is so good because it's like every issue is very self-contained. Like you don't need to keep up with any like big continuity or anything. It's just like, what are these guys up to today? And it really feels very episodic, and it's really funny, but it's also got a lot of like, you know, there's messages and stuff. Like Ryan North, I think has very distinct ideas, which I like. A lot of them happen to coincide with the way I feel about life as well, so that helps. But if not, like, it's just fun superhero comics. So I can imagine taking a property like Star Trek, especially this Lower Decks, which I feel has a little bit more levity than the normal Star Trek stuff. And Mike, I'm not a super fan like you either. But
let's keep this a thing. Let's make it so.
Mike was saying he's not. Yeah, Mike's saying he's not. He doesn't call himself a fan of Star Trek anymore because he has transcended that label. But yeah. Anyway, Ryan North, great writer. Come on the show. We'll love to talk to you about all this stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to pick your brain about all the nitty-gritty Star Trek details that I definitely know about. Danny, what's on the top of your pile this week? We have to move on, or else I'm going to explode.
Well, so because we are live on Twitch, I kind of cheated a little bit.
I see.
What's on the top of my pile is not a comic itself. It is a whole event that's happening over at Marvel now, which really coincidentally happened to align with the Sentinels book I was reading, because that's the one that features Xavier in the prison. I'm reading the X-Manhunt event that's happening over at Marvel. This is a new 8-part X-Men crossover, which will follow Professor X's attempt to escape the Grey Malkin prison, where he has been since the end of the Krakoan Age. Spoilers, I guess, if you haven't finished the Krakoan Age. Xavier is a jerk, and he's in prison. So, but sure. When is he a jerk, right?
Sure.
So I don't have creative teams because this book spans over, and this is the part that's probably gonna piss off the most people. This book is gonna interfere with all the X-Men series that you're reading. So it's gonna start on Uncanny X-Men number 11, NYX number 9, and Storm 6, which those 3 are already out. And then it'll continue on X-Men, X-Factor, X-Force, Exceptional X-Men, and then conclude in a big old one-shot X-Manhunt Omega. Because I guess they didn't want to interrupt another. I'll tell you this, if there was another X-Men series, it would have concluded there instead of in its own one-shot.
Right.
The reason I'm getting into this is, I mean, I love the X-Men and their shenanigans. But Marvel's doing all these Peach Momoko covers, and the first 3 parts of this event had Peach Momoko covers, and so I picked them up, and I was like, "Oh, this is the X-Men Hunt stuff." Like, well, I'm already kind of pot committed. I feel like every X-Men book is gonna get a Peach Momoko cover anyway, so like I'm gonna end up buying it. Maybe not the last one. That's where they'll screw me. The Omega one is not going to have one, right?
Right. It's going to be a single A cover, nothing else, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, they'll still do 10 covers. It'll just not be one.
That's true.
But it's been a long time since I kind of dove deep into one of these like big crossovers across the lines, because they really haven't been doing them. Like, I think Krakoa had something like that for the Hellfire.
2, I think. Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy.
Really interrupting everything. It was just like
X of Swords, though, was a big crossover event.
Right.
But like, if you were like me,
3 years ago.
But yeah, I was reading everything, so I didn't care. It didn't bother me. But like, I can't imagine there's anybody out there actually reading all these X-Men books.
Yeah.
From what
I think this is going to be the real litmus test for like this Marvel, the X-Men office. Like, do they still have the juice? I don't know. We'll find out at the end of the event, which should be by the end of the month, I think, once we get a full cycle of of comics. So stay tuned. Maybe when I'm back on the show, I'll talk about what I thought of it. I just really want to know like how Xavier's going to get out of jail, because they have him locked up tight.
Just use his little telekinesis, or telepathy, easy.
Slight spoilers. He was already doing that on the Sentinels book. That was part of it. Because they want to make sure that they put Onslaught in everything.
Right.
So
can't give up on the 90s, baby. It's coming back, right?
That's right. Which I think it's kind of part of it's part of my issue with the current X-Men line. So we'll see. Jordan White, I miss you. So there you go. That's the top of my pile.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. I'm glad that someone out there is reading the X-Men. That's
Someone
all I can say. But yeah, let me talk about what I am reading next. I got a bunch of books in the mail the other day. I did get because I can't stop reading James Tynion books. I did get my mimetic copy, my hardcover from Boom came in the mail. It's very nice. It's very slick. It also came with 5 single issues that I really didn't have any intention of getting, but you had to get it or something, or maybe I selected for. I can't remember, but that means it also came with bookmarks that I didn't want, and so I've got those just like somewhere. It's the classic thing with the Kickstarter, like Boom Studios Kickstarter, where they're just like, "Hey, guess what? We hit a dollar amount. You get some more cardboard for your house," and I'm like, "I don't want that." And they're like, "Too bad, it's coming." And it's like, "Thanks." We're not doing that with the IRCB Kickstarter. I will tell you folks out there, if you haven't backed it, go to ircb.fyi/zine, and I can guarantee you I will not send you anything more than what you elect for in the Kickstarter, except for some stickers. Everybody's going to get an IRCB sticker, but that's it. If you back it something, that's all you're going to get from me. I'm not going to give you like extra bookmarks or extra cards or business card, whatever. You're only going to get the stuff that you actually want. I wish more Kickstarters could just adhere to that. If I said I wanted a copy of your thing, that's all that I want. Don't send me stickers. Don't send me. Anyways, got to get off that soapbox. It probably is a bad look, but so I've got some stuff in the mail, and one of those things was Beat It, Rufus. This is by Noah Van Sciver. If you are a long time listener to the show, you know that I'm a big fan of pretty much anything that Noah Van Sciver publishes, if only because I think his work is very, very funny and very interesting. But for this series, Beat It, Rufus, it's from the author of Fante Bukowski and Joseph Smith and the Mormons. It's a hysterical character comedy about an aging rock god in his own mind forced to face the music, which means that this is just like Fante Bukowski, where it's about this dummy who can't seem to understand who he is and what he once never was. I'm very excited because I love the way that Noah Van Sciver writes pathetic losers who just can't understand who they are. It's always really cringy and really, really funny. Yeah. I think like Fante Bukowski is one of my favorites. I know that it is not everybody's cup of tea. I put it on a reading challenge at one point, and so many people were like, "Mike, what the fuck, dude?" And you know what? I'll take that. I'll take that L. That's fine. But I really, really like Van Sciver's work, so I'm excited to read Beat It, Rufus, because it sounds like it's the same kind of thing. It's a pretty thick book. And I think on the whole, Van Sciver does a great job of just like putting together great graphic novels. Like everything that I read from him, for the most part, I've really, really enjoyed. So I'm excited to see what this latest book is about and how it compares to other works that I really, really love by him. So Beat It, Rufus is on the top of my pile this week, and I'm super excited to sit down and read it. The hardcover is really nice. Like, do I have it? Do I have it easy accessible? I do. Hold on.
Twitch exclusive. You should be watching live.
Yeah, so I do have it here. I'm sorry, this makes for great radio, but it's a really cool looking book, right? It looks like someone who failed out of the 80s is 100% cannot give it up. And it comes with this nice little bookmark thing. It's not really a bookmark. It's like you only got this because you pre-ordered it for Fantagraphics type thing. But it's a little print that you get, which will ultimately become the bookmark for this book. But it's title. I mean, I love the way that like Van Sciver's work just looks like this, doing it to the max. Like, it's so cool. I love the way that just his books just end up shaping together. And it just, I don't know, there's just something about it that just really clicks for me. So I'm excited to see what this dark little book is about. It smells just like a Fantagraphics book, and that's why I always get their books in print, because they smell nice. They're nice, chunky, solid hardcovers. you can't go wrong. I mean, Santos Sisters is going to be coming out soon. There's going to be a bunch of other stuff that I need to pre-order from Fantagraphics. Every year they've got a handful of books that I'm just like, I can't not get this. And Vince Skyver's books are exactly that. So for me, at least.
I wonder if they'll leave, for the Santos Sisters collection, if they'll leave the ads in place, like where they are.
Oh, the IRCB ad in the middle of those Santos Sisters books? Are you kidding me? Hopefully, fingers crossed, they come as part of the comic.
So, unlike Mike, I was when Mike was talking about people giving him crap about Fante Bukowski, I was people.
I know, Danny, your face was just like, I ain't reading any of this shit, Mike. And that's okay. You know, at this point, I've come to understand, and it's something that I think all comic book readers need to understand, is that your taste is going to be different than other people, and that's okay. And sometimes it's going to be way off, and sometimes it's going to be closer than you than you expect. So,
listeners, this doesn't apply to me. You better like my stuff. I don't hold these altruistic views that Mike clearly got from Star Trek.
Yeah. Listen, I'm so mad at you right now, Nick. I'm willing to accept that most people are not going to like this book, but that's okay. I'm going to have a good time. I got it, and I don't really care what other people think. I'm cooler than that, okay?
I don't even know how I feel about the leopard skin, like, on the side. Like, do I hate it, or is it super cool?
It's so perfect.
Like, I'm still debating, like, if that's... It feels tacky, but, like, in a fun way. Like, that's you're embracing it.
I think that's...
Come on, look at the font. Yeah. The font is even like the old style. Like he's got a keytar, but he's also sitting like Baphomet, right? Like, it's so cool.
Yeah. It's
anyways,
for sure.
I'm very, very excited. But yeah, I think that does it for this week's episode. I'm very excited to hopefully get the Kickstarter over the line. We are, let me just refresh the page one more time. We are at 94%. 63 backers. We got 23 days to go. I'm very excited. So if you haven't checked it out, go to ircb.fyi/zine. We would really appreciate your support. Anything helps get us over the finish line. I'm very excited to get these printed zines out to people, assuming we get over the line. If we get over the line, I got to buy tapes. I got to record episodes of IRCB into the tapes themselves. I got to print out custom labels. It's going to be so much fun, extra work to do to get this out, because it's, I don't know, all these things coming together is very, very exciting to me, and I just want people to see what's inside these zines. The full pages are so good, and yeah, I don't know, it's gonna be really, really fun. So thank you all for listening today. I really appreciate the time. Thank you to Nick and Danny for being here with me today. Thank you to Kara for proof listening. Thank you to Zander for editing, and as usual, until next time, comics are good, and so are you.